Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome my colleagues and my friends today for the workshop on methodology. Today, inshallah, Dr. Hamid, he will work on this workshop and he will helping you and guide you during your journey as a master and or PhD students. So thank you for all for joining us. And now I will let Dr. Hamid to speak. Okay, your turn, Doctor. I wish you best of luck, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. السلام عليكم اخوان. بالنسبه للاخوان اللي يتحدثون اللغه العربيه طلاب العراقيين الصوت واضح؟ احد يجاوبني؟
اي نعم دكتور واضح.
نعم واضح.
تمام. طبعا مشتاق لكم هواي واسف لانه يمكن صار لي اكثر من شهر ونص ما مسوي اي محاضره لاصابتي بفيروس كورونا. المعاناه كانت طويله لاكثر من 31 يوم والحمد لله والشكر تشافيت وبفضل دعائكم طبعا الحمد لله والشكر. So I will switch to English language. So first of all, I'm very grateful for being with me today. So today's workshop is about methodology. At the beginning, we need to know what do we mean by methodology. So you can see the screen. Research methodology simply refers to the practical how of any given piece of research. More specifically, it's about how a researcher systematically design a study. So whether you are doing your PhD in engineering or accounting or we can say English language, you are requested to make a thesis at least for 300 or less than 300. So in chapter 3, chapter 4 and 5 and maybe 6, so you will be deal with the methodology. So the main aims of the methodology, you are going to design a systemic study, and the systemic study must answer the aims and the goals or the objectives of your study. So more specifically, it's about how researchers systemically design a study to ensure valid and reliable results that addresses the research aims and the objectives. So the results, as you can see on the screen, the results, it's equal to the aims and the objectives. Both the objective and the aims must match, or we can say, I can obtain them from the results. So generally speaking, there are many features for the good methodology. A good methodology chapter in the dissertation or thesis explain not just what methodological choices we are made, but also explain why they were made. So keep it in your mind. In chapter 3, you will use the WH question too much. In other words, the methodology chapter should justify يعني يبرر أو يشرح the design choices by showing that the chosen method. So when I will say method, I'm talking about the theories and the data that I'm going to use to answer objective and the research questions. And the techniques are the best fit for the aims and the objectives and will provide a valid and reliable, we can say, result. Finally, or point number 3, a good research methodology provides scientifically sound findings, whereas a poor methodology does not. So we have started with the definition of the methodology, and also we have explained the main features. And as we have said before, each chapter, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and even we can say the last chapter, always started with introduction. So the question is, what we can say materials, or we can say words I'm going to include in my short introduction, always is very short. So keep it in your mind. For the short introduction, I'm going to talk about the key categories, or we can say items in this chapter. What are you going to explain in this chapter? Which elements we can say, which theories, which type of data. And also, two important, we can say, issues to shed the light on, especially in the introduction section. Number 1, justify why your study is important. Then may refer to another, we can say, theories in the analysis. So keep it in your mind. In the introduction, justify why your study is important in order to draw the attention of the reader or the examiners. Number two, introduce the theories in this chapter to your readers. Tell the readers, tell the examiners that I am going to use two, or if you can say, theories to analyze my data. So keep it in your mind again, the introduction must include two main points. Number one, justify why your study is important. Tell the readers why your study is important. And the second one, you will tell or introduce, we can say, the readers with the theories. You will tell them something about your theories. This is the introduction section, which is 3.1. The second section is the research design. Just I need everyone to keep, we can say, to listen to me. In case I'm talking about the research design, so I'm talking about qualitative, quantitative, mixed mood, we can say, methodologies that I am going to use in my chapter. So in case I'm using qualitative research, so qualitative refers to the research which focuses on collecting and analyzing words, whether it's written or spoken, and textual, we can say, data. Whereas the quantitative one focuses on measurement and testing using numerical data. So keep it in your mind. How come I can differentiate between the qualitative and the quantitative? In case I'm talking about the qualitative, I'm talking about, we can say, written or spoken, we can say things. I'm talking about the text. يعني من أقول text هنا أنا أتكلم عن النصوص. In case I'm talking about the quantitative one, so I am talking about the numerical data. يعني عندي فد أعداد أو عندي فد أرقام لازم أشتغل عليها. Qualitative analysis can also focuses on other software, we can say, data, such as body language, or we can say visual elements. البادي لانجوج حركات خلينا نقول عليها اليد، الجسم، الوجه، هاي يسمونها body language. The visual elements يعني انا بهالحاله اتكلم وين على الصور، سواء كانت متحركه او ثابته، الصور اللي نستخدمها بالاعلانات او بالانتخابات، هذا كله يسمونه visual elements. It's quite common for qualitative methodology to be used when the research aims and objectives exploratory in nature. يعني انا الكواليتيف يعني اقدر استخدمها اذا شنو، اذا ردت استكشف بيها فد شيء، يعني فد شيء اريد يعني ابحث عنه ولازم اطلع به نتائج جديده. For qualitative methodology might be used to understand people's perception، يعني الادراك او الاحساس، هذا كله علما اخوان قاعد اشرح عليه من على qualitative. About an event took place or a candidate running for president contrasted to the quantitative methodology. هنا هسه نسوي shift علما ل quantitative methodology. It's typically used when the researcher aims and objective are complementary. يعني هنا أنا متأكد من عدة nature. For example, quantitative methodology may be used to measure relationship between two variables. عندك متغيرات اثنين. هنا أنا معطينا example personality type and likelihood to commit crime. يعني هنا أنا يقول لك علاقة بين الشخصية والميل علما لارتكاب خلينا نقول جريمة معينة. Or test, we can say, a set of hypotheses. So keep it in your mind, keep it in your mind. In case anyone asks you how to differentiate between the qualitative and the quantitative, just you can simply answer a quantitative in case I have a hypothesis. عندي فرضية وأريد أثبتها، بهالحالة أستخدم شنو أخوان؟ quantitative. واذا عندي ارقام ثابته، عندي صور ثابته، عندي نص ثابت، اقدر استخدم وياه شنو؟ الكواليتيف. Number 3, as you have probably guessed, the mixed methodology attempts to combine the best of both qualitative and quantitative. هسه نرجع علما. So we are return back to the research design. What to include in the research design? So you can see on the right side, refer to your approach, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. Tell the reader, tell the examiners, tell your supervisor that my study will be qualitative or quantitative, or it will be a mix, we can say, method. Within the research design, refer to the objectives. So you have one or two or three objectives. Normally they are more than three. Also, refer to the source of your data, from where you will collect your data. You will take it from the social media, you will take it, we can say, from an office, you will take, we can say, or get, we can say, the information from the college or a factory. You should tell, we can say, the readers. Also, within the research design, refer to each theory. So how many theories you are going to use? Maybe two or three. So you should talk about them in one paragraph is very enough. Refer to each theory you are going to use to analyze your data. Each theory will be used to analyze a specific type of data. So based on my study, which is the multimodal representation of Islamic State ideology on Facebook, I am going to talk about the ideology. So the ideology, I can get it from the multimodal, we can say, text, which makes the image and the text. So I can say, I can use Chris and Van Leon to analyze the image, and I can use the SFL to analyze the text. Within the research design, refer to your data. So how many your data? Maybe there are 10, 20, 100. Their source from where you go to, can say, your your data, and also you should include the date. So my data will be from, we can say, 2017 until 2020. Also, you should tell the reader the criteria of selection, why you in particular have selected, we can say, these types of data instead of the other. So in this case, you need to justify. You need to justify. As an example, I have selected 20 images from the web page or the Facebook, we can say, book of ISIS on Facebook. So I am sure the examiner will say, Hamid, why you have chosen just 20? So simply I can use, I can answer, we can say, this question. Facebook, we can say, put restrictions on the broadcasting of images by the terrorist, we can say, groups. This is simply the justification. So the research design also, you should make, we can say, a diagram for it. So you can simply, the research design, and I'm going to use a qualitative method. So I will use two theories, Halliday SFL and Chris Van Leon, in order to get the ISIS ideologies. So you can see in Arabic, I have written صورة واحدة تغني عن ألف كلمة. So within the research design, also you need a table. So the table consists of two items. Number one, the research questions, and for each research question, which theory you are going to use. So as an example, research question number one, what are the textual strategies employed by ISIS in representing their organization on Facebook? So the focus is on textual. So for the textual, I will use Halliday. Number two, what are the visual, we can say, strategies employed by ISIS in representing their organization on Facebook? So for the visual, I will use multimodal by Chris and Van Leon to analyze, we can say, the data. Number three, how are the ISIS ideologies portrayed using a combination of textual and visual elements? So in order to answer, we can say, question number three, I will use Van Dyke, theory 2006, for supermodel to answer, we can say, this question. Part number three in chapter three is the data source. So when I will say data source will refer to the main goals or aimings behind your study. So data source is equal to the objectives. How did the researcher go about deciding? So deciding in which aspect? I'm deciding which type of data I will use in my study. So number one, what data to collect and what data to ignore. So you have many types of data. So you can talk to your supervisor. He will tell you we can include this one, and at the same time we can exclude this one. Number two, who to collect it from. In research, it is called sampling design. Number three, how to collect it. This is called data collection method. Number four, how to analyze it. It's called data analyze, we can say. So within the data source, you should refer to the main goal in your study. I am studying what and where and why and how. So as I said before, the title of my thesis is Multimodal Representation of Islamic State Ideology on Facebook. So the main goal in my study is ISIS group. So based on your study, you should tell, we can say, the reader the goal, the main aim behind your study, which phenomena you are going to study. Point number 3.1, sample of data. So, so when I will say sample of data, I am talking about my data in, we can say, in a specific way or accurately. So there are many options, but two main categories of sampling design are probability and non-probability. Probability sampling means that you are using completely random sample from the group of people you are interested in. طبعا هاي دائما تصير عندنا بالجامعات مالتنا اذا نريد ندرس في ظاهره معينه ناخذ جروب من الطلاب راندوم يعني من المرحله الاولى والثانيه والثالثه ونجري عليهم الاختبار، فهذا شيء يسمونه probability. يعني هنا شنو يعني احتماليه راح تكون عندنا، واهم نقطه بيها شلون راح تكون هاي الاخوان راح تكون قابله للتعميم. اوكي. النقطة الثانية non-probability sample on the other hand does not use a random sample. يعني so basically in your study you have two options, whether you are going to use a random samples or non-random samples. So based on my study, I am going to use what? What do you think? Completely random or non-random? So
The first one.
I am going to use non-random, we can say, samples because I am focusing on the Facebook of ISIS, and I will select a specific type of data. Which type of data? I am going to select image with text, image with text, image with text. So my selection is non-random. But in case I will select maybe image with a text or without a text, so in this case, what? My selection will be random. My selection will be a random one. So within this section, again, say something about qualitative research. Refer to the data in your study. And also you should mention the aims of your study. Also within this section, so you can say the criteria followed in the selection of the data in detail. You should justify, you should tell the reader how come you have selected, we can say, your data. So you can tell him how many, when, where, and how. So I can give you a small example from my study. So there are three types of criteria. I have used them in my study to select, we can say, the data. So number one, I'm going to tell the examiner, they are posted by ISIS group on Facebook. They must have an image and text, so they are not random. It's posted on ISIS Facebook wall from 2014 to 2007. So in this case, I have told the examiner, or we can say the readers, from where I have selected, we can say, the data. I have selected them from the Facebook of ISIS. What about the main criteria in your selection, whether they are random or non-random? They are non-random because I'm looking for the images with the text, يعني صورة وياها نص. The third criteria, I have mentioned the date. I have mentioned the date So my collection will be from 2014 up to 2017. Then it will be, we can say, obligatory for you as students of PhD to design, we can say, a table. So you should include, we can say, your data. I have selected 20 image, you can see. I have selected 20. So within the table, I can mention the location, the date of the image, and at the same time, the theme. So I can just take one example. So image number one, it was taken in Iraq in Mosul city, and the date was 16th of June 2014. And the main theme we can say of this image أبو بكر البغدادي at the مسجد، يعني هو مصورين فيها البغدادي داخل إحدى المساجد وين في مدينة الموصل. هذا فيما يخص شنو اخوان؟ هذا فيما يخص sample of data. Tell everything about your data. Explain everything in detail about your data. Convince, we can say, the examiner or the reader about the details of your data. Now we are shifting to the research procedure. Which method I am going to use in order to analyze, we can say, the data, and we can say, we can say, the results. So within the research procedure, maybe you can talk about the data collection through Facebook postings of ISIS. So you can talk about the source of the collection. So you can tell the reader, I will collect, we can say, the data, 20 images from the source or the Facebook of ISIS, or we can say from a hospital or from a factory. Also within the research procedure, also tell the reader something about your theories. Which theories you are going to use? Say something about them. I will use three theories. The first one is for Holiday, the second one for Chris and Van Leon, and the last one is for Van Dyke. You should mention the date, and also you can say something about the theories. طبعا هنا اخوان قاعد تلاحظون اكرر كلمه يعني احكي شيء عن النظريات مالتك اللي انت راح تستخدمها بالتحليل. بنهايه الموضوع طبعا اكو 3 كلمات راح اذكركم بيها. ليش اقول لك يعني لازم يعني قاري كل شيء انت. So I have said before يعني صوره واحده تغلي عن 1000 كلمه. So within chapter 3 you should make a design for the research, you can say, procedure. You can see the data collection is 20 images from the Facebook. Then I will analyze the data. I will use 3 theories. The first one is Holiday, and the second one is Chris and Van Leon, and the third one is Van Dyke. So you can see I have highlighted, we can say, many words within the diagram. So for the Holiday, maybe Holiday, we can say, theory consists of 10 items. So you and the supervisor decided to select as an example 3 to 4, we can say, items out of, we can say, this theory, and you can ignore, we can say, the rest. So for the Holiday, I have included, we can say, all the elements. So they have ideational, interpersonal, and the textual. And for the Chris and Van Leon, representation, interactive, and decompositional. And for the Van Dyke, they have macro and micro, we can say, elements. In case we are return back to Holiday, we can say theory. Within the ideational, we have many subcategories. So within the I and the supervisor, we have decided within the ideational, as an example, meaning we have many items. So out of, we can say, 3 to 4 items, we can select 2 or 3 or 4. And the same for the interpersonal. Within the interpersonal, we can say, meaning we have many items. So out of them, we have selected just the mood and the modality. And the same you can apply it for the Chris and Van Leon. It depends on the decision, we can say, of the supervisor, whether to include everything in detail or they can, we can say, ignore something from the theories. Now you are moving, we can say forward, and you will explain each theory you are going to use briefly, refer to their subcategories. So this is the diagram, and you should explain it here. So you can say, I will use holiday. Within the holiday, I will say ideational, interpersonal, and textual. Within the ideational meaning, I will talk about the process and the participants. And within the interpersonal, we can say I will talk about mood and modality. And you can apply the same explanation for the rest. You can see table point 3.3, the process of analysis needed to answer the research questions. So the table consists the research questions and the description. So as we have mentioned before, I have 3 research questions. Number 1, what are the textual strategies employed by ISIS representing their organization on Facebook? For the description, so when I will say textual, I am focusing on specific things. So you can say, in the description, I am looking at how written words used to represent the participants. هنا البارتيسيبنتس الأشخاص. يعني كيف استخدم هذا التنظيم الكلمات لوصف الأشخاص الأماكن. يعني مثلا يقول رجال أقوياء، رجال مؤمنون، يعني هيك الدراسة راح تكون. يعني هنا راح نقول the actor and the goal, how the religious discourse was used by religious discourse used based on the Holy Quran and the Islamic text. يعني أيضا إذا أخذت النص هنا أخوان راح أعرف شلون هذا التنظيم استخدم النص القرآني حتى شنو يمثل به أو خلينا نقول يشير به للمنظمة مالته. إذا أنا I'm talking about the text, so I am also looking through the selection of the words, especially their part of speech, font type, size, and color. يعني we have seen many images posted by ISIS on Facebook, or we can say Twitter. So some words in red color, some they are with a bold font. So also we can say research question number 1 will deal with these things. In case I'm talking about the second research question, I'm talking about the visual. So within the visual, I'm talking about what? The representational meaning to identify the participants involved in the communication and the relationship. يعني اخوان حتى اختصر لكم ليش اطيل عليكم. In case, so within the table, you should write down a research question, and within the research question, you should explain in detail. I will repeat it again. Explain in detail what you are going to study and in your data in order to answer research question. You should explain in detail. So I have many data types. So within the data, I will focus on this part and this part and this part in order to answer research question number 1, 2, and 3. طبعا هنا راح اتحدث لكم بس على research question number 2. How are the ISIS ideologies portrayed using combination of text and visual? هنا أنا يعني باللغة العربية أحكي لكم الريسيرش كويستشن مالتي اللي هو شنو اللي يمزج mix research question number 1 and 2. Through the findings of the previous questions, the study will discussing how ISIS identify themselves versus others. يعني هنا اللبة كانت or the bottom line of my study, how ISIS portray themselves and the others. So I'm sure they will portray, we can say, themselves positively, and they will portray, we can say, others, you and me, negatively. هو هذا كان الغرض من دراستي. So this is the main part, we can say, in chapter 3. Within chapter 3, you will select one data only, whether it's image, text, we can say, or we can say results from a factory or hospital, or and you will explain it in detail. So you'll tell the examiner, this is the preliminary study, and these are the findings that you will find it in chapter 4 and chapter 5, and will answer, we can say, the 2 questions in chapter number 6. So when I will say preliminary study, Here you will select a sample from your study and you will apply the theories you have selected before. As I have mentioned before, I have selected the three theories, one to analyze the text, the other one to analyze the visuals, and the other one to analyze the ideologies. So I will start with the first one. The first one that's going to use to analyze the text, explain the theoretical part of each theory, and as much as you can, references, citations. It's preferred to add the original founders of the theories. Keep it in your mind. In case you are talking about the theories in chapter number 3, so you should mention the founders. And in case we have any update, we can say for the theories. As an example, you can say the founder of this theory is Hamid. Then it was developed by Hamza. Then it was developed by Dr. Zaid, and you can keep going. But keep it in your mind again and again. In chapter 3, focus on the founders. That's why don't forget to read, read, read. Read as much as possible about your theories. Try to collect as much as you can of previous studied about your theories. So you can manipulate, we can say, manipulate the information between one chapter to another. So within the text, I'm going to talk about ideational meta-function. This is the explanation. And also I'm going to talk about the interpersonal meta-function and the textual, we can say, meta-functions. So I have finished the first part of research question number 1. I have used, we can say, the theory to answer research question, and these are the samples. These are the explanation. These are the justification, we can say, to convince the examiners or your supervisor. The second part or research question number 2 is focusing on the images. So when I will say image, I'm talking about visuals. So within the visual, I'm talking about the representational meaning. And also I will explain it. And in case you have a diagram, try to add it. And the saying in English said is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Whenever you have a picture, whenever you have a diagram, just you can include it and keep it in your mind. You need the citation and the page number for each diagram. It will be very easy to track the information. It will be very easy, we can say, for the examiner or the supervisor or the reader, we can say, to track the information and the explanation. This is the explanation in detail. Now I'm shifting for the second type, the interactive meaning. Also, I will say something. I'm talking about the founders. And also I will include a diagram. And also I will continue to explain it in detail. The last part we can say, and for the visuals, I'm talking about the compositional meaning. So the founders, they are Chris and Van Leon. I will repeat them again and again. It will be very helpful. It was recommended by the supervisor, always saying use the original founders in your explanation. This is the diagram. So within the compositional meaning, I'm talking about 3 items: information value, which includes the given and the new information. Framing, I'm talking about connect and disconnect. And for the salience, I'm talking about foreground, background, color, contrast, size, and the sharpness. And it will be very easy to explain. We can say the diagram here. This is the explanation based on the selected image. The last part is the ideology analysis, which I can get it from analyzing the text and the image. So also using the Van Dyke, we can say, for square model to answer research question number 4. This is the diagram. So for the ISS ideology, based on the visual and the text strategies, so we have 2 types of representation. The first one in a group, which consists ISS group, and their representation was positive, and the outer group, you and me, which was a negative representation. So what are the new ideologies in case we can say ISIS group mix the text and the image? So the new ideologies will be them and as for ISIS group and then for you and me. This is the explanation. The final part we can say in this study, or we can say in this chapter, is the chapter summary. You can just add 3 to 4 lines to summarize what you have said before. To sum up again from the beginning, chapter 3 is very important, and the main questions will be the justification, how, when, and where you have selected the data. This is question number 1. And also the examiner will ask you why particularly you have chosen this theory and this theory and this theory. So I have finished my workshop today. In case you have any questions, so you will be most than welcome.
السلام عليكم أستاذ حميد.
عليكم السلام يا مرحبا.
I wanted to ask, in case we are actually doing a mixed study, so do we still have to put theories if we're doing both qualitative and quantitative?
So in case you have a data, whether you will analyze it, we can say qualitatively or quantitatively, or we can say a mix. So how come you will analyze it? I'm sure you will need what? You need a theories to analyze them.
Then how do I do the research design for, for this type of mixed method?
So for the research design, you can say, so the study will be mixed mode, okay? It will be a mixed mode, and I will use the qualitative and the quantitative. And so you can use both qualitative and quantitative. In case you have a hypothesis, in case you have a numerical, we can say numbers, so you can use the quantitative one to obtain, we can say the results. In case you have a text, we can say you have images, or a case you can use the qualitative one. Then you can mix, we can say the results. Then you can mix them.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Dr. Hamid,
yes.
I have one of the participants or the student, he has a question.
Yes.
He said, if we have introduced the theory part in literature review,
yes.
do we need to interpret again in chapter? I don't know what is if we have introduced the theory part in literature review, do we need to interpret again in chapter 3 or not? This is a question from Charlie.
Yeah, that's why I have said this is the first we can say words. You will hear it from the supervisor. Read, 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 and read. So when I will say read and read, I'm not talking about repeating, we can say the same thing about the theories. So you will mention them in chapter 2. You will mention them in chapter 3, but in different, we can say, ways. Different citations, different, we can say, references. But as I have said before, in chapter 3, I try to use the original founders, we can say, explanation of the theories, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3. But in chapter 2, chapter 4, and chapter 5, you can use different types of citations to elaborate your study, your explanation.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So, anyone who have a question to Dr. Hamid about the methodology, he can ask by voice, or he can write it on the chat.
So, Dr. Hamza, I will share, we can say, this copy of this workshop.
Yes, sure, sure, Doctor.
Share it. Want to keep it for his own. You are not authorized to give it, we can say, other people. So, Dr. Hamza, hello.
I hear you, Doctor. Sorry.
Yes, since we don't have anyone to ask questions, so I will end up, we can say, this session. And again, I'm very grateful to anyone we can say join, we can say this workshop. In case you have any question, any help, so I'm ready, I'm available. Since I have recovered, you can say, full recovered from coronavirus. Another thing, I requested or recommended, we can say, every PhD student to focus on in vivo. Again, in vivo is very important. In vivo is very important software. It's available on your own page, we can say. Just you can download it and you can go to the website, to YouTube, and you can practice, we can say. In vivo will make, we can say, the trip shorter for the PhD. In case you will finish 3.5, we can say, years or 4 years, you can make it maybe within 3 to 2.5 years, and you will finish everything. Thanks again to everyone who can say join this workshop, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hamid, for your workshop today. We really appreciate, and we pray for you and also to recover and to stay healthy and blessed, inshallah. So thank you for everyone. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
Who attend the class, who attend the workshop, and inshallah this workshop, it will be available inshallah on our YouTube channel. And thank you for all for joining us, and see you inshallah in another workshops. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu
Thank you
alaikum.
very much. All the best.
Thank you very much.